Picture the kitchen counter, 1 hour after dinner is done. In a lot of American kitchens, that counter is still mid-fight. A stack of pans, a cutting board with something dried onto it, a sponge sitting in a puddle near the sink. Now picture a compact Japanese kitchen, sometimes a third of the size, with half the counter space, where that same hour after dinner looks different. The counter is mostly clear, not because someone rushed to scrub it, because the system built into that kitchen left far less behind to deal with. That's the part that doesn't add up. Less space usually means more clutter, not less effort. So what's actually different? It's not that people in these kitchens clean more. It's that the kitchen is set up so there's less to clean in the first place. And one habit near the sink looks like extra work, but it can prevent one of the nastiest cleaning jobs in the entire kitchen. We'll get to that one. Start with something almost too simple, a tray. In many Japanese kitchens, food prep happens inside a defined zone. A tray or a boundary around the cutting board, instead of spreading across the whole counter. Mess doesn't clean itself up, but it can be contained. Pick up the tray, and the counter underneath was never touched. An American counter often has no boundary at all, so mess spreads to fill whatever space is available. The fix isn't a bigger counter, it's a smaller work zone. That solves what happens during cooking. But the moment cooking ends, a new problem shows up: wet dishes. Most American kitchens answer that with a dish rack that lives on the counter permanently. Whether there are dishes in it or not, it becomes furniture, and furniture collects things around it. In many compact Japanese kitchens, the drying rack is smaller, sometimes just large enough for one meal, and it doesn't stay out. Dishes dry, get put away, and the rack itself gets tucked into a cabinet. A rack that's always visible normalizes leaving dishes in it. A rack that has to be put away forces the dishes out first. The size of the tool is controlling the behavior, not willpower. That same idea shows up again with pots and pans. Stack them horizontally, and getting the one on the bottom means unstacking everything above it. A 5-minute task turning into a small avalanche on the counter. A lot of Japanese kitchens store pans and lids standing upright, side by side, in narrow dividers instead. Any pan comes out without touching the others. None of this fully explains why the counter stays clear, though. A tray and a smart rack help, but they don't stop items from slowly colonizing the counter over weeks. Something else is doing that job. It comes down to where things live relative to how often they're used. In many Japanese kitchens, daily items, a rice scoop, chopsticks, the one knife actually in rotation, sit within a single reach. Items used once a month live somewhere less convenient, on purpose. The interesting part is what that prevents. When something has an obvious, easy home, putting it away takes less effort than leaving it out. When it doesn't, the counter becomes the default storage spot, one item at a time, until it's covered. Most kitchen clutter isn't a hoarding problem. It's 100 tiny, I'll put it away later decisions, and every one has a cost. The same forcing function shows up inside the refrigerator. Japanese refrigerators are often smaller than the American standard, partly because kitchens are smaller, partly because many households shop more frequently for fresh ingredients. Nothing can disappear into the back and get forgotten. This isn't a claim that a bigger fridge is a mistake. It solves a different problem, for a different lifestyle. But if food waste and mystery leftovers are the problem you're trying to solve, the fix isn't a bigger fridge, it's fewer places for things to hide. So far, every habit here has been about physical space. But here's what surprises most people. The biggest source of daily kitchen work isn't the mess itself. It's decisions that get made over and over. Take leftovers. In a lot of American kitchens, cooked food goes into the fridge in the pot it was cooked in to be dealt with later. A common habit in Japanese households is portioning food into individual containers immediately after cooking, while it's still on the stove. Tomorrow's lunch is already built. The work still has to happen. It just happens once, right after cooking, instead of getting re-decided every day it sits in the fridge. Trash follows the same logic, for a different reason. Many Japanese municipalities require household waste sorted into several categories: burnable, plastic, cans, PET bottles, before it ever leaves the house. So instead of one bin under the sink, a lot of kitchens have several small bins right at the prep area. The side effect is bigger than the sorting itself. Trash can't quietly pile up in one spot, because it has to be dealt with as it's created. A recycling rule is also functioning as an anti-clutter system. Here's a feature most Americans have never seen in a kitchen at all: a fish grill drawer. Many Japanese stovetops have one built in, a narrow grill compartment below the burners, with a removable grate and tray designed to catch drips while the food cooks. After cooking, the removable parts can be taken out and cleaned at the sink. Compared with using a larger oven or pan, the mess is concentrated in a small, removable area instead of spreading across a larger cooking surface. Which brings us to the habit that started this video. Over many kitchen sinks in Japan, there's a small mesh net sitting right over the drain, catching every scrap of food before it goes down. After each use, someone lifts it out and empties it. That's an extra step. It looks unnecessary. Here's what it prevents: food scraps rotting inside a drain, feeding bacteria, and eventually causing a smell that makes an entire kitchen feel dirty, even when the counters are clean. Fixing that means pulling apart the drain, running cleaner through the pipe, scrubbing a part of the kitchen nobody wants to touch. One 10-second habit, repeated daily, replaces one of the nastiest cleaning jobs a kitchen can produce. Which leads to the last piece, the one that ties everything else together. At the end of the day, a lot of these habits point toward the same closing move. The counter gets wiped, the sink gets emptied, the cloth gets rinsed and hung to dry, and the kitchen returns to something close to its starting state. Every night, not just before guests come over. That's the real difference. It was never about a kitchen that stays perfect all day. It's about a kitchen that can get back to zero quickly, so tomorrow doesn't start with yesterday's mess still sitting there. None of this comes from owning less or cleaning constantly. It comes from removing the small, repeated problems, the stack that has to be unstacked, the drain that eventually smells, the counter with no boundary, before they get a chance to build up. A kitchen this size was never going to win on space. It wins by needing less from you every day. And if a kitchen can be redesigned around that idea, it raises an obvious question about the rest of the house.